Good afternoon, Simma.
Good afternoon, Hora.
Welcome back to another episode of Philosophers in the Therapy Room. I guess it would be our 17th one.
Yes, 17th
Yeah,
episode.
yeah, and I'm hoping that we are actually being able to. I'm really hoping that we can discuss something which is at the same time very, very much experienced and available to everyone. It's one of the most important, but at the same time, maybe irritable emotional experience that we all engage with.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I believe that it is very misunderstood.
Yeah.
It's a very misunderstood experience, at least from a philosophical and phenomenological point of view. So I guess before we're just heading up to this discussion, I just want to thank you everyone for joining us for this episode, and please let us know your thoughts and your feedbacks, and hopefully we can once talk about them. Maybe we can engage with them more than this. So Semima, we are going to talk about shame.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hooray!
Yes. Actually, every time that I go thinking about shame, I feel amazed by this powerful experience.
Yeah. And I mean, I didn't think of this before, but interestingly, we will be doing this activity in English, but maybe through our talk, and because we haven't considered it, maybe we can bring at some point our own languages. And see what that word represents in our own languages and what kind of words we do have.
Yes.
We didn't plan that, but let's see if we get there. Because let's begin with the English word and how it is understood. So definitely shame is something that, we talk so much about it in public life, in social life, in personal life. But in terms of when we go to therapy, psychology, psychotherapy, it takes a very different shape and form, and it does represent a kind of a pathological state, a kind of a phenomena that is seen as deeply problematic. I mean, it's deeply human, experienced by everyone, so that's not denied in psychotherapy or psychology. However, it is seen as one of the negative things we experience, and I have that definition from the DSM-5. Defining shame as highly unpleasant, self-conscious emotion arising from the sense of there being something dishonorable, immodest, or indecorous in one's own conduct or circumstances. And then they go on about what are its symptoms, how it kind of unfolds. But the very first word is highly unpleasant. That's how it begins to describe the experience of shame. And it would be good to just go a little bit deeper into noticing that, yes, we understand that is, of course, the way shame is experienced by many of us. And, it is something that we often deal with our clients when they come to us as adults, someone in their 40s and 50s, but the kind of shame they carry with them since their teenagers or childhood. Is it so uncomfortable, it is so unpleasant, and kind of makes them unopen to the world. So we do identify that shame does pose a big issue here, but at the same time we want to consider the humanness of shame, the way we experience ourselves and other people in that moment of shame. And even though it does close up the world to us, but it's important to see how it does that. What is the working and what is the methodology and the phenomenological structure that shame offers to us in terms of our relationship to the world.
I guess one of the important things that I just want to add to this description that you presented is I think we assume that we know shame, and we know that the shame is the origin of this misery. But I claim today, and I'm going to reference certain literature, that they see shame as the originating moment of self-reflection, but the rest of the miserable phenomena and experience that comes with it's other than shame. So shame can open the door to many emotional experiences, but it's only opening the door, you know. So it is not itself that one should be blamed, you know, for this miserable life experience that we have.
So what you're suggesting here is that the shame is the moment in which I discover myself as this something not good. For example, let's take it like, you know, because shame is generally about I'm not good. You know, and especially not good in my own eyes. It's more about I'm not good in the eyes of the other. So that's very important, because shame is always seeing myself through someone else's eye. So you're suggesting that that self-reflective moment is part of shame, but the idea that it kind of leads to withdrawal from social intercourse and kind of disconnected from the world. It's not basically, I mean, it's connected to shame, but not originating in shame.
Yes. So it's not a cause and effect thing. It's not that direct from the shame. Shame made it possible for other things like anger, like distress, like abandonment, feeling of abandonment, come and play, or get the control of that moment of self-reflection, of vulnerability of the self, you know, self-exposure. You know, whatever you build up on that vulnerability and openness of because shame is all about the moment of you become visible to the other. It's that fear of exposure that all of a sudden you feel that you're exposed. So you with that moment of being exposed, you can add other emotions to that. You know, so
let's stay on the topic of the you know, we'll come to the other emotions, because I think that would be very interesting to explore. But I think it's first good to unpack what exactly is shame. I mean, in everyday experiences, when we talk about shame, we are talking about, you know, feeling in any moment when we are doing something and we become aware of how our actions or our situation would be seen by others. So that's the most basic description of shame. You know, for example, I leave the trolley in the parking lot and do not put it in the parking bay, and then I just all of a sudden maybe I noticed someone looking at me or just became aware. What if someone saw me and then I become ashamed because they would be judging me? This is a person, and you can kind of start building on it, not just a person. This is an immigrant woman. She doesn't know the ways of Australian life. So shame is coming from this idea of not being just judged for myself, but for my own community, my identity. So shame is basically looking at myself from the eye of the other, and looking at myself from the judgmental and morally, you know, kind of degrading judgment coming from the other. And that's basically how a normal experience of shame could be described. How do we do it philosophically? Would you like to go there?
I guess one of them. This is the experience of shame, and I guess when I was, you know, the first time both of us realized that how psychology look at the shame, we were just looking at it and said, what is this? Why are you so negative about this? Because actually in philosophy, shame is very well regarded. Is one of the emotions and affects that make you a human being, remind you that you're not an object, you have some capacity, you have free will. The very being able of being an agency is because of shame. So, you know, the first time that we encountered this understanding of shame, we both don't know that's not right. And
it just takes away the richness. We're not saying it's wrong, but it's very shallow, it's very negative, and it just makes it look like pathological throughout.
Exactly. And I guess I think it's all about whether you like to pathologizing an emotion or not. And I think as a philosopher and the rest of the philosophers, we don't believe that you need to pathologize a human emotion and human experience. It's your responsibility is to know it better, understand it, dissect it, understand what's going on with it and why it was there from the very beginning. What is it that emotion wanted to tell me? It's the affect, and I'm a machine that only generates responses to the world. If the affect is the message from the world to me, wanted to tell me something. So I need to understand what was that something that it should be told to me, and what was my response, and what can, other than that, what can be my response? If it's not shame, what can it be? So I guess it's more like being interested in knowing the affect and emotion rather than pathologizing it.
Yeah, definitely. And like basically, as we discussed, that each and everything we experience actually, when we go through it phenomenologically, it tells us who we are. And that's what we want to understand. What am I, and what is my relationship to the world and the other? So that's the whole point of exploring shame for us. It's not about it's good or bad or right or wrong, but rather what it tells me about my relationship with you or the world, So that's where we actually want to explore shame as a human experience.
And I guess this again gets back to existential and phenomenological, having a phenomenological perspective to emotions. I guess as a phenomenologist, you don't evaluate the phenomena. You don't evaluate it. It's not your job to evaluate the phenomena.
It's there.
You're just yes, it is there. You accept the there-ness. It was there, but at the same time, you try to ask yourself how this thing happens to me and what makes me feel, and how should I respond to these things that I've been affected by. So I guess it's very interesting the way that phenomenologists and philosophers dealt with actually emotions and affects, but in exactly the same sense that how of the givenness, how of this experience of what was it that I was experiencing and I felt this in my body. In that sense, in phenomenology, we call shame as a moral emotion. And when I'm saying moral emotion, I just want to clarify that how different it is from the everyday understanding of morality and ethics. It's not about ought and ought not.
Actually, you should do this, you should not do that.
Exactly. It's not about a normative order. It's not a normative order. In phenomenology, when we say something belongs to the realm of moral or the moral realm, we mean by this that it's an experience that happened in a realm of me and the other. There should be an other involved, so I can experience the world in a certain manner. Either I experience myself in the eyes of the other. Sometimes that other, it's not very objective other out there.
But
actually it can be me. Sometimes
but kind of a differentiation, a sort of a split happening, but it is some kind of a duality.
Exactly. There should be another. So it's an intersubjective relationship. It comes and it is originated, it emerges from an intersubjective realm. Pride is the same.
You don't feel proud on your own.
Exactly.
You feel pride like among people, how people are looking at me and what kind of things
pride
are
is
achieved.
Pride is the same. So shame is the same. So you need the other so you can experience that.
And it's like when we go to the phenomenon, like basically the most famous, infamous description of shame is given in Sartre's discussion of the look.
Yes.
And it is like, I'll describe the very common famous example that he gives, So when we are looking at Sartre's idea, he is talking about, how I am in the world as a human being, as a subject who experiences the world, how I see the world. And in that kind of, encounter, he talks about me and the world filled of objects, me as the subject who looks, who actually gives meaning. So in that description, he starts talking about, okay, what happens when others enter the picture. So he describes a situation where, out of curiosity, he's peeping through a door keyhole into a room, and totally, so your whole consciousness is basically behind that keyhole, your eyes, and you're just focusing on that. And it's important to remember that as human beings, when we are immersed in action, we totally forget our bodies.
Yes.
We become oblivious to our physical existence, and our body goes in the background.
Yes.
And you become this complete activity in that moment.
Yes, intentionality, actually.
Pure intentionality.
Yes,
and the more you are immersed in the act, the less you are aware of your own
Yes.
physicality.
Yeah.
And in that moment, someone walks up and they look at him, and the moment the person peeping through that keyhole becomes aware of that someone is looking at me, they feel ashamed that, oh, he's looking at me as a peeping Tom.
Yes.
This person looked at me, and they must have thought that I'm a peeping Tom, I'm looking through this keyhole. And in that moment, it's not just that the judgment is about you're doing an immoral act. It's more about just becoming aware of being an object for the other person. You caught me in a particular act, and all of a sudden, right now, I was the one looking at the picture, and in that moment, I'm being looked at. So the table is totally turned.
Exactly.
And what happens is that in that moment, I become aware of my own object being. I become aware, and I'm no longer the person giving meaning, because the peeping Tom is given to me by you.
By the other, yes.
So,
yes.
right, I was watching the vision and whatever was happening, raunchy scenes happening inside, or whatever, I was giving meaning to it, that, okay, this is happening. I'm the narrator, I'm telling story, and all of a sudden the tables are turned. Now I'm being looked at, oh, there's a peeping Tom.
So it's, if I want to put it in a formula, so it's like you were really enjoying the experience of through agency by making the meaning in active meaning making, in the process of active meaning making, and then all of a sudden, and because it was the pure excitement and joy of this intentionality, this
pure agency, pure activity.
All of a sudden, the whole understanding of being an agency is disrupted by the look of the other, and you became the object of
in one look. From subject, you're an object now.
It's
your world
so
is flipped over, and that's where the
interesting.
shame comes from. That I become the object.
Yes,
and that's so shame is always experienced through the other.
Yes.
I don't experience shame on my own. I mean, even if I am imagining what would someone think, if I'm doing something, if you're eating from the jar directly, and then all of a sudden would someone think, how do I look like, and you feel ashamed, it's again imagined that how would the others look, judge me. So, but it is always what would the other think of me, or what is the other thinking of me, that we experience shame.
It's so interesting, Sima, because in this exhibition or description of shame in a Sartrean way, it's a prejudgmental experience. It's an existential experience.
It's pure existential.
It's pure existential experience. Shame is a pure existential experience in a first glance, and then it becomes it becomes actually, or you can verbalize it through culture, and then we give it those judgments, those evaluations after what we have really been through. Look, there's a gap between the existential feeling of shame and what Tompkins says here is the script of the sense. There is a script which made it available or situated the experience of affect, or the sense experience. So you situated that experience within a specific condition. It is that condition that gives the verbalization to the existential experience of shame. By itself, it was an existential condition. All of a sudden, you became an object instead of a subject.
Yeah, okay. I agree. Yeah. So what we are saying here is it's important to remember that, the shame that we are talking about here, existential, is not the social or the cultural shame.
It is not.
It's purely existential experience of becoming just a body. And
exactly.
And I remember like the couple of things that are coming to my mind in that sense that, for example, when I was pregnant and people would ask me questions about, how far I'm along or give me suggestions. I really felt a lot kind of an angered shame because I felt like this pregnancy has made me an object for them because now they can talk about my body. What's happening inside my body, which I never gave them right to before. Like no one could ever talk about my body in that authoritative way, but now random strangers, aunties from community would talk about, reflect on how my belly is swollen, whether it's a boy or a girl, how I'm looking. Before that, I never gave anyone right. I was a very uptight person, so no one could talk about my body in that open way. And now this pregnancy has made me an object for them to talk about it. But that was just like very momentary kind of experiences. But so that's basically just this identification that I'm an object for you.
Yes.
And that
it's so interesting. It is only that moment that we are actually in the cycle of shame. It's a momentary reflective experience on the self. The rest is not shame. Shame actually finishes here.
I get
shame, that. It's an existential awareness of me. Instead of becoming a subject, I am constituted as an object for the other.
And being the subject of my world, now I have become an object in your world.
Exactly.
And that's the flipping
is
basically the moment of shame, of the existential shame. But the shame that we are talking about, the pathologized
in psychology,
shame,
it's the other emotions that it starts to come up and emerge because when you realize yourself as an object or in an interaction, all of a sudden you become vulnerable to everything that happens to an object.
Okay, what I want to add here is maybe let's look at shame in from that perspective, but in a different way. That, for example, and that's something again coming from existentialism, is that we, in these experiences, we also we hate that experience, but we also know that it's the other who can give me meaning in a way that, for example, only you can judge me to be a morally good person. I cannot do it on my own. I need the tag of other people.
Yes.
Saying that's why we post our images on social media, because going to Bali and enjoying my life is not happiness. Happiness is when you
as long as you recognize it.
When others say, "Oh, what a happy life you have."
Yes.
So our script becomes meaningful by others, and so basically, in what we want is good kind of input or tags for our script.
Yes.
And shame is a negative or kind of self-defaming kind of script that is attached to my identity. So what I'm trying to say here is that instead of getting a good feedback from you, a good kind of tag or description for my being, in shame I experience a bad one, which is attached to my soul, and then I just keep on repeating it. Is it making sense, or is it making it more confusing?
Yes, no. I understand that, but then we need to ask why is happening that? Why shame? Because Selma, imagine that you were not looking into the keyhole. You were helping an elderly person. And you were so soaked in the activity of helping that you wouldn't recognize that you have a body or whatever you were describing.
You were just fully this helper.
It was really devoting yourself into the activity, all of a sudden someone came and recognizes this is such an amazing guy you are, for example, why not shame that moment? So the whole idea is, why, again, it's objectivity. So I was really devoting myself and being inspired by this motivation and intentionality. But again, it is a disruption of, however, again, it's different. So why? Because it was, again, the other, when you're doing good, again, it's a relationship between you and the other. And you are already somehow being permitted to be in such relationship with the other.
When you're helping them.
Let's
take a different example. Like, for example, if I become aware that someone is looking at me, and in their look I identify that they are mesmerized with my beauty. So first of all, there is this feeling of existential identification of that I am
becoming an object of the other.
So that shame is there. But when I notice that they are identifying me as beautiful, and culturally the script is being beautiful is valuable, I feel pride. So it's basically the cultural script. So I feel being noticed as an object is the first moment of shame, but the shame of a peeping Tom is coming from cultural script.
Exactly. So I think the very script added to the moment of shame,
that's
attached to the experience of shame. And why it is negatively always attached? Because most of the time it's a negative script that is already attached to the very existential experience of shame.
Usually.
And it's really interesting. When I was looking at Tompkins, he describes shame as a disruption in the excitement and joy. So the primary experience is what? The primary experience is excitement and joy. That I am approaching the world in a way that I am excited to know more. I'm excited to engage with the other. Okay. All of a sudden, this excitement is abrupted. This excitement is not allowed. This excitement turns around, breaks on its own, and then I feel disappointed. And I couldn't actually finish the intentional activity to its very aim. I couldn't actually get the aim. So shame disrupts the cycle of excitement and joy, and when it's actually abrupts and disturbs this excitement and joy, which is a positive affect, whatever it is disrupted, it becomes negative. So in that sense, shame is negative. It's like because excitement, joy is open the horizon of the world to you.
It closes.
And shame closes the horizon of the world. The horizon of possibilities shrinks. That is exactly the one Sartre is describing. So you were pure activity,
pure intentionality.
The whole world was open toward you, and all of a sudden comes, denigrates you to your look and to your body. You remembers that you're an object for the other, and for the object there is no possibilities.
Exactly.
All possibilities are closed.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that when we say in philosophy that you're the object, we don't mean that the other person thinks that I'm a robot or it's more about, with the look, when you look at someone, you immediately fix them. This is a woman in her 40s.
This is who they are.
So with the look, you freeze them.
Exactly.
And you're not frozen forever, because then I look back. What are you looking at? I'm a peeping Tom, so what? I'm not embarrassed. So you give the look back. Why are you coming here? This is a private corridor. How come you are here? So I can give the look back. totally shrug it off or whatever I do. But in that moment, that look introduces me to being an object and takes away my intentionality. I mean, if we bring Beauvoir here, that look isn't also an appeal. Now I have to respond.
Yes.
Yes. I cannot continue the way I was, because this person, I can, be indifferent to them. I can give an answer to them. I can try to hit them. Whatever I do, it asks me for a response. But that's story for another day. Right now, just let's stay here with the experience of shame, because as we were saying, that it disrupts that pure intentionality, because in that moment, and that's why we said it's such a human thing, because in that moment I become aware of my kind of bodily being, and my connection with the other person.
Yeah.
And as we have been saying, that we actually discover ourselves through others.
Yeah.
You don't discover yourself, like, of course, in your experience you get things, but it is through the other that you know yourself. And that's why it is such a basic human phenomena.
Yeah.
We don't want to get rid of it.
No, actually, it's really important. I mean, if it's the moment of recognition that you are an agent, you are a human being, and you have a value, and somehow called you to devalue you. So that look of objectivity, it's a denigration. It's a call of denigration, because all of a sudden I became visible to judgments. I become visible to the other, and I made the other able to think about and judge about me.
Yeah. So that's where we are in terms of the existential shame. When we get to the experiential or psychological shame, it's not just that first moment of being seen.
Exactly.
It's being seen as a bad object.
Exactly.
And that's where the script comes.
Exactly.
Because you're not seen as a bad object without a context. So, for example, in a society where peeping through a keyhole is totally normal,
Yes.
I wouldn't feel judged. I would just feel, oh, someone is here. That's it.
Yes.
But if it's totally fine, people always peep through keyholes, that's totally a normal action. I wouldn't feel ashamed of my activity in the social psychological sense. It would be just the existential shame. So that's where the idea of the social or the psychological shame comes in.
Yeah.
So let's move on to that idea.
So I guess then we are moving to the idea of the script itself. So how the script is worked, or how a script is written for that moment of recognition by the other. If so, and then you feel anger, you feel distress, you feel fear, you can feel interest with the shame. So shame can pair up with other emotions, because it's all about the moment of recognition. It's nothing other than that, that you become visible. Okay, and then you need to ask yourself, what kind of visibility I'm looking for? Am I becoming visible make me vulnerable to the look of the other to do violence with me? Then it's a shame and fear.
I become
am I visible so the other abandon me? Again, it's fear. So it's a shame and a fear. So it's all about the recognition of the visibility, and if you are visible, what kind of options opens for the other to interact with you? What am I going to be for the other? So what kind of object and the possibilities of the other's act upon you actually gives you that another complexity of emotions that comes with the shame. Yes, I am object, but object of what? Am I object of interest? Am I object? So, and then, for example, in shame, I was interested, and that shame actually being disturbed, that interest. So my curiosity being inhibited, and Tompkins, for example, calls this perfectionism.
Okay.
So you wanted to be curious to achieve that, to achieve certain goal, but because you haven't been achieved it and disrupted by the shame and becoming all of a sudden object of the other, the evaluation of the other, the project of curiosity hasn't reached the point. So whatever you do, you feel that it's not enough. Why? Because your project never been able to finish itself.
Okay.
You know, it's like you're always
incomplete.
You feel incomplete because the look of the other in the middle of being an active and full agency disrupted being make you feel an agent.
Yeah.
So you couldn't really arrive at to the things that you ever wanted to do, and you've been evaluated and judged by the other. You're lazy, you cannot do it right, or no, not good enough. But if, I don't know, if the child had the language to say, how about give me time so I can finish my project without you disrupting it and evaluating it. I haven't done the things that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't have the facilities to do it. And it's not my problem. I dreamed big. I could go. I could make it happen. I couldn't, but I am blamed.
So what I from what you were describing earlier, what I realize is that the shame that we talk about as psychological shame is never experienced alone. It usually latches on, or let another emotion latch on to it, and that other emotion actually kind of determines your response to the world. It's not the shame itself.
Exactly. So it really, I think the shame is nothing more than the moments of recognition by the other. Not a recognition in a positive sense, but visibility. Let's put the visibility.
Being noticed.
Being noticed, exactly. Being noticed. All of a sudden you become visible to the others. You felt that, no, it's only me and the world. But all of a sudden people see you as an object rather than an agent, as a subject.
Yeah, and you can think of like such ordinary example, like, sometimes you're sitting in public and all of a sudden you become aware that someone is staring at you. And when you stare back, they become embarrassed. Because it's just that it's not like there's nothing else going on, but just being seen by someone, and then you look at them and they become aware of being seen as looking at someone. Just that momentary notice that I have visible to the other, that's basically what shame is.
Yes, exactly.
But the judgment is the script that is through social...
comes after that. And then I guess not only script is actually directing the other to how to judge me. But actually the emotion that attaches to the shame is my perception of the other. So I've been noticed, but for example, I was thinking about that your example of the beautiful girl. So that moment can be shameful. Why? If it's the man and a body of a woman it's a total vulnerability. So that moment, it's a shame and fear that, what did I do? You don't feel even happy about your beauty because your beauty actually made you visible and opened you and made you vulnerable for the other to do
that's why I'm saying that it is a script based on the script that you are grown up with, because in like if you come from a culture where only a man's look can justify that you're beautiful, in that culture it's only the look of the man that can tell me that I'm beautiful. So instead of even if I feel fear, it's only that look that can say that I'm beautiful. So I
totally get it, and I guess even in the sense of saying, even in the sense of to what type of experiences or activities you become vulnerable at the moment of shame by visibility. I guess that's a cultural thing as well.
Yeah, and it's always your cultural thing.
Exactly.
It is
exactly.
because it's internalized shame.
Yes, because you have a certain perception from the other.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you learned in your
you
culture.
Interpret their
exactly
their words, I mean, like, even if someone is saying that, we jokingly say, like, I sometimes joke when my son does something wrong, you bring shame on the house of Nakwi. Sometimes I say it to him.
Yeah.
But those words are meant as a joke, as it hopefully doesn't introduce him to any shame. But at times, even a look, what can make you feel like, extremely ashamed. So it's not the word, it's because, he has learned not to attach value when I'm speaking in a certain tone.
Exactly.
Certain actions are not seen as shameful act. So he's not interpreting it as a judgmental act.
So even I guess being noticed by the other, becoming object for an evaluation and a judgment for the other, it's very interesting. It's a very dynamic moment of it's a dynamic realm. So that only acted upon and can be meaningful in the culture of you, the culture of perception of the other, how you perceive the other, what kind of possibilities you assign to the other in that culture. Okay. And the other, again, the same. They understand, the way that they understand you as an object, they think in their own cultural space that what type of possibilities can be given to me as a doer to do with this the other. So if you are in a violent culture, the shame really translates into vulnerability and hurt and harm. If you are in a compassionate environment, the possibilities of the other do to you actually it is not violent, it is not involving any violence. At the end of the day, it's question, it's distress, it might be even abandonment, so it can be fear.
I mean, it's all about, when I feel ashamed, I become aware of part of or myself as this bad person, for example, bad in a certain way. Now, in terms of what I do with my shame will depend upon how I see this person would be treated in my culture. So if I see myself, for example, someone looking at me and objectifying me as a woman, and I feel ashamed in that moment of that gaze. Now, based on, in coming from cultures where, it's your fault that people are looking at you, I would internalize that shame and not say anything. But if someone is coming from a culture where they say that, you have no right to stare at me, so you would become ashamed for a second, but you would not internalize it. You would take action, you would address them, or you would, if you're not in a situation to address it, you would just shrug it off and not think about it.
But you go through the shame. The experience of shame is there because it's all about the moment.
Because you look at me as a body, as an object.
Exactly.
But how deep it will impact you and what you would do with it, it is going to be determined a lot by how, when you are ashamed, what kind of person you become. What do you see yourself as? What is this self now? And what is done to this person in my culture? How this person
what
is treated.
What are the possibilities of a person being treated when it is recognized as an object? What things that can happen to this person?
Exactly. I think
it's so interesting.
This reminds me of IFS because they talk about, parts of the self, and the ashamed part are always exiled. And it can be different culture, different things, different shames. It doesn't matter. But because for IFS, shame is the thing, we exile things that we believe cannot come to the surface. Something that if it opens up, it will totally damage the person. It will totally damage the self. So for the sake of the well-being of the complete person, the part of the self that is ashamed is exiled, is kept as a dirty family secret that no one talks about. However, it is there, and that's why it keeps disturbing the balance of your life. But the generally the exiled part are really what we are quite deeply ashamed about, because the fear is that if it comes up, I don't know what would happen.
Exactly.
It's the fear of what would happen. I don't know what would happen, and that's why you are exiled.
And I think again, it could not be exiled if I was living in a culture that I would know that I can trust the other not to do harm.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about not being able to open up that part of me, because the whole idea of shame is that the part of me that is ashamed, the self that is ashamed, is somehow not something that can actually come to the surface and address and live in the world. So that has to be, so shame is all about hiding.
Yes.
Shame is all about covering. So this is something, and that's coming from, I don't know what would happen to me if I open this side of me. I can't trust the other. So
yes, because I cannot trust the other. That's the thing.
So that's like, I might be afraid, like, I would be judged even further, abandoned, harmed, so there are different reasons, that can actually be why this shame is exiling that part of me. But ultimately, it's the lack of trust.
Exactly.
So shame arises through your view of me, and shame stays because I can't trust you.
Yes. And there are numerous scripts and situations that I experienced myself as an object that has been treated unlawfully, has been treated in a way that it harmed me and it denigrated me. So it's all about the memory of being observed and noticed as an object. The rest, I think that the excited part is the trauma of being denigrated.
Yeah.
It's not shame. It's not shame itself.
Yeah.
It's the moment of recognition, but it's the other.
Yeah.
That noticing abused me. Not as a subject, but actually as an object.
Yeah, and of course, like, it can be one event that can lead to a deep shame, and that is like deeply rooted, or it could be multiple events. But when we are talking about shame that becomes so deeply rooted, so deeply problematic, not just this momentary experience, we are talking about, some kind of judgment that the self received, or which was very kind of detrimental to their sense of self-worth. What I think about me. And so it was very disturbing. So it doesn't need to be a lot or for long term.
It depends on the quality of how deeply
disturbed.
How deeply disturbed your sense of self.
It could be one look, one event, or multiple events.
I mean, it challenged a very, very interesting part of your self-perception.
Exactly, who I am.
Exactly.
And so it kind of is in that moment. But after that, the reason that shame stays within me and become a part of me is where I'm not sure what would happen if the others know about this part of me. Although you gave me that part. The other gave me that identification.
But I carry
it. And I am afraid to share it with other people because, there's this fear. Because shame is all about being seen as bad. Being seen, the psychological shame we're talking about. This judgment of not being good enough in certain ways. And so that's where, the whole idea of shame is lived throughout, in this kind of impossibility to bring it up to the other, to bring it.
I want to share here a very, very interesting experience that recently happened to me. And I was feeling so uncertain about why I'm not feeling good. It was something very new to me, but I couldn't understand where it's rooted. I feel that I'm not good. I'm not okay.
Yeah.
I just knew that I'm not okay, and it actually started to represent itself as a sense of nothingness. I didn't want to do anything.
Yeah. Lethargy.
Yes, I didn't want to do anything. Even the most joyful stuff that I would do, it became so nonsense to me. I wouldn't judge them, but it couldn't motivate me.
But you weren't feeling angry either?
No, it was a total nothingness. It was
Anhedonia,
just,
sort of.
Yeah, I don't want to. It was just feeling of I don't want to. And I was referring, look, you know that in the past 2.5 months, things clearly, radically changed. And for the experience of Israel attack on Iran and really the bombardment and the loss of those memories attached to places that are ruined now, it was quite disturbing, and I tried to deal with it actually I allowed myself to grieve, and I felt that okay, I did right, and I felt okay about the space that I gave myself for grieving. But at the end of the other side of the coin, one side it was me, but the other side was the recognition of the other, which I didn't get none. I got none. As someone that their home is under attack, my family is in there, my loved ones are there, my friends, my whole memory of home is there. So the recognition really totally failed. The world of my colleagues and my close friends, some of them, you know them all. And I shared with you that I didn't get any compassion in a world and in a realm in mental health that we are working. We say that we are opening ourselves for the other to become vulnerable, and I put myself out there. I shared the experience of the horrible experience of being attacked. My memories, my wholeness was attacked. I made myself visible to the other. And the other didn't recognize it. Okay. Yeah. So I knew that I have some anger about not getting the recognition. I didn't get the compassion while we are in the field of compassion. We are just
people who should know
it better than me. They didn't give me the recognition. And so I recognized that moment, and I feel so disappointed. So disappointed. I cried a lot for that. But that disappointment, I guess when it's sedimented, I could only get the anger from it. So when it was bubbling, it was bubble of angers. But then when I was reading on shame, all of a sudden I felt that, this is what I'm feeling. I'm ashamed of myself. That why did you make yourself vulnerable for this recognition? Exactly. I'm not angry at anyone. I'm angry at myself. Exactly. Because you assumed that in a safe space of mental health, you can be yourself. And your pain can find a place to reside and to recognize, and that is a collective pain. So that collective pain can only be cured and mended collectively. But there were no community. There were no collectivity. I realized that so this is I am angry at myself. That why I put myself in a position to become visible to the other, to become vulnerable to the other, it was like, why did you trust?
Exactly.
You knew that you cannot trust.
Yeah.
It's a moment of self-betrayal for me. And it was really interesting, Selma.
Yeah, because I think with vulnerability, you okay now?
Yeah.
With vulnerability, when we, like, there's vulnerability that I'm unaware of. That's different. The vulnerability that I agree, like when I trust you as a friend, I let my guards down. I let you in my house. I let you in my family. And so I'll give you room to attack me because, but I know that you wouldn't attack me because I trust you.
Exactly.
And I wouldn't do it to the stranger in the street. I wouldn't bring them to my house. So that's where you feel like a fool.
Yes.
You know, if you betray me, it would be like how stupid I could be.
Yes.
How could I trust this person? So it's less anger with you, more like shame of being vulnerable to a person that I shouldn't have been.
And I guess when that was all built up when I was talking to a friend, and we were talking about the marginalization, emotional marginalization. Sima, I believe that I know what is it like to be a minority. I knew that. I learned it. 17 years I lived as a minority. I know how to navigate it. But this level, Sim, I can. It was so unknown to me. And I'm telling you, it's much harder and worse than normal racial slurs that you hear. You don't give a job, you've been given a job. It's much worse than that. When it becomes to the level, when you experience marginalization on a level of emotion, it seems that you are not even allowed to make yourself vulnerable for the recognition, for the compassion of the other. It seems that this one is not allowed.
Or even more than allowed, it's not noted. No one notices it.
Exactly.
It's non-existent.
And that's another Sima. It's another level of marginalization. It's totally another level. And it hurts. I wouldn't believe that
because
it hurts
so
me.
Deeply lived.
Exactly. And it wasn't like really living as a minority, as a marginalized person. It wasn't anything like that. So that was, and when I was reading, oh my God, that is a shame. And it's not about the other. It's about me knowing that the other, if I become vulnerable, that is the only possibility for me. It's neglect. So the only possibility as a minority for me is a neglect. Then why I trusted in that?
Exactly. So so it's again this kind of, you again get yourself through the eyes of the other through neglect.
Exactly.
I'm not seen.
Exactly.
In that moment, it is, it's a very interesting phenomena because unlike being seen, here you're not seen. Maybe in another episode we can reflect on that.
You're not seen as whatever you're supposed to be seen. So it wasn't only me, but it was my lived experience. Our organizations is all about lived experience, and somehow your lived experience is being accepted in a mode of inaccessibility. Really, it is not accepted. You are not accepted with your lived experience. You are neglected. You have not been seen as a person capable of pain, of a loss of home. Why? Because you're already a migrant. You don't have a home. Your home is here. So I understand the logic of that. That because I'm a migrant, you're already given up on your home.
But you haven't.
You
experience it. You experience it, and in these experiences, you felt that you would get the compassion.
Exactly.
But you were not seen in that moment as worthy of compassion, as in need of compassion. And so again, it is being seen but as a different object.
Exactly.
You were seen as an object who is totally Aussie, settled here, good job, What the hell
why do you have
cry?
pain at all?
Exactly. So yeah, so that part of you was not seen
Yes.
at all, and that's where you feel ashamed because
Exactly.
I showed them that part and they totally ignored it.
Exactly.
How could I
If
be so
it was
stupid?
acting like an Aussie, that would be fine.
Yeah.
But I didn't act like that.
Yeah.
I acted as someone that their home is on fire.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
I showed that the stress.
Yeah, but you didn't receive the
Exactly.
recognition, and that's where it's like the shame is like someone can experience it as anger as well, and it's not.
And I thought it's anger. It's toward the other. I was angry at them not showing me compassion. But actually, my anger toward them was secondary.
Yeah, it was
my first anger was at me.
How could you be so stupid?
How could it be you? I mean, come on, after 17 years, you haven't learned that you cannot trust.
Yeah. And so, so ultimately it comes back to that feeling of, I can't show that part of me. And that's where, that shame is coming from, that lack of trust. And even like, you felt ashamed and not strong or confident enough. Like if I had done this to you, you would have said, Samima, you did this to me.
Yeah.
Because there's a level of trust. So instead of feeling shame, you would have felt hurt.
Yes.
Betrayed. But you couldn't trust them enough to say it to them, and that's why there's shame. Because if there was trust, you trusted them.
I could make a dialogue. I could try to understand that why I've been acted upon with negligence and not something else.
Because you are more worried that if I say that, I would look like a bigger fool.
Exactly. Because I don't look, there is no way of dialogue. I mean, when I am already Samima, it's an epistemic injustice. When I am already being seen as marginalized, as a minority, I don't have the same logic of majority, mainstream. So there is really the possibility of dialogue is zero. And like there's no trust in terms of if the first moment of vulnerability is totally missed, how could I open myself to another attack? Exactly.
So it's all about lack of trust there.
Exactly.
So I think that's where it is really good to probably bring it to a kind of a good point of wrapping it up, that shame is something that we see as a deeply human phenomena in terms of an existential experience, because I am given to myself through the look of the other. I become aware of myself as an object being, as a thing in the world. I know myself as a peeping Tom, as a beautiful woman, as an intelligent person through the look of the other. It's not I who get myself as this or that. However, because the other is freezing me as beautiful, ugly, intelligent, good, bad, it also introduces
it labels me. It's like I am labeled like this.
So my subjectivity is taken from me and I become an object. That's why it introduces me to this shame of this kind of objecthoodness, which is purely existential. Add that to a layer of social, cultural, linguistic phenomena and the narratives. Now these moments are not just the recognition of a subject, but rather good or bad.
Exactly.
Worthy to be accepted in society or not to be accepted in society, which bring other emotions to latch on to that first moment of shame. And that's where shame, as DSM defines it, is a kind of a pulling away, getting away from society. That's where the shame becomes like that. Shame on its own is not like that.
No, it's the emotion or
that latches
the possibility
on.
Exactly, and the possibility of the other, what the other can do to me.
Exactly. What would happen if they know this part of me?
Exactly.
And this comes from a social cultural script that we grew up with. It's always going to be my interpretation of what other could do to me. It's always like you cannot go on that and keep telling that I keep telling that person that you are safe, you can say things. It's the person who experiences shame. They need to existentially, bodily feel that if I reveal this self to them, it wouldn't be harmed, it wouldn't be further banished, further hurt. and that's where, you know, there's a possibility of openness.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise,
Mm-hmm.
shame, you know, the other emotions that are attached to shame will always, you know, or as long as they are strong enough, will keep you closed up. I mean, of course, like I was reading a book which was connecting shame to anger and inability to forgive.
Yes.
Because you are embarrassed, you are ashamed, you are something happened to you, and that's why you can't forgive that person.
Yes. Yes.
So until your shame heals, you can't go on to forgive that person.
And it's not about your shame, actually, it's about your relation with the other.
Yeah, exactly.
So you need to, it's so interesting. So it's not about me carrying the shame. I need to
it's
ask.
a trust.
It's a trust to the other. Am I trusting the other
Mm-hmm.
to not do harm again to me?
Yeah.
And if I cannot, it cannot be healed.
Yeah, but I think there's another thing which is important to remember here is that and maybe we can have another episode on shame, because I was thinking about with shame, what happens is that you see yourself as a bad object, bad thing. So healing would require that I start seeing myself maybe as an ambiguous thing, mixed person who has this thing, or what I did.
Exactly. So you feel that, okay, if the other will not give me this, I will give myself this. Maybe making myself the other, the trustworthy other.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't need to be like the same person who introduced me to the shame.
Yes.
I don't need to go through them to experience.
If it's all about visibility, okay, I become visible to myself.
Yeah.
I trust myself.
Yeah,
if I have compassion for myself, I will not hurt myself.
Exactly.
Therefore, I can show that part of self.
So you need to pardon that part of you who is binge eating at 12 a.m. in the middle of the night, and you know, identify and like that feeling of shame. You know, no one is watching you, but through that invisible eye, what would others think? So you need to heal and start feeling okay with that part of you, and kind of forgive it, maybe, or you know, whatever that kind of experience of shame is. We don't know it. It could change from person to person, but the idea is that once you start feeling that I'm not a bad person, that part of me is not bad, that will lead to, you know, kind of overcoming that pathological, that psychological shame, and being more open to the world, being a person who can have flaws, can have defects, but that does not make you a bad person.
Exactly.
And just, you know, more like accepting this kind of ambiguity that, you know, you have good or bad traits. I don't need to hide behind this curtain of...
But the most important thing is your recognition of that. So you accepting yourself as being capable of this, and actually somehow, so you become interested in yourself in terms of even if you're visible to me, I will not judge you.
Yeah, I think part of the biggest problem is that in shame we judge ourselves the first. You know, I look at myself through your eyes. So part of healing is basically me actually looking at myself through a kinder eye.
Yes. And with compassionate eye.
With compassionate eye. And that's what is really important. Sometimes others can play a huge role, but in all cases, it is always going to be me being ready to look at myself more compassionately, in order to, you know, kind of get over that extreme shame if it's holding me back. I think that's a good point to bring it back. I think we have so many more things we can say.
Yes, we didn't go through.
Maybe we'll see if we can address shame in another episode.
I guess that would be really good if we could bring some biology of shame
and we were talking about blush,
the cycles, exactly, the blush.
Noticing when I'm ashamed, what does it mean? And I think Derrida talks about Nietzsche, pity. So identifying, when I identify that you're ashamed, that's a human moment.
Pity,
but the moment I feel pity, I disconnect, because then I see myself as superior. Exactly. I mean, that's my way of looking at Nietzsche. I don't know. Who knows what Nietzsche means?
It's interesting.
But maybe we can see if we can have another episode on shame.
Sure,
but I think this is a good point to bring it back.
I think really the basis of what we are looking forward and aiming at here in these episodes is trying to have a refreshed understanding of emotions and emotional phenomena and emotional experiences from a phenomenological point of view. And as long as shame is only an originating, it's opening a gate toward a kind of emotion, it can always be involved in many episodes as long as we are dealing with the secondary emotions that lashed into it. So I guess we're going to get back to shame.
Yeah. Thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you everyone, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you so much.